I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. It is 6:02 p.m. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. To, who did I not pick on yet? Amanda, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Chairman update. I don't have much of one. We had our budget meeting last week in which we had an obscene amount of discussion. Grateful for every resident who stayed online for 3 hours and 45 plus minutes. That's all I have. All right. We start with citizens' comments. We will start, we'll go backwards tonight. We'll start in the room. Any citizens' comments? No citizens' comments in the room. Any citizens' comments on Zoom, please raise your hand. If your iPhone is listed as iPhone 2, etc., please either A, change your name on your phone or put it in the chat. We do need your name and address. Okay, go ahead.
Muted.
You are muted. I think she's trying to figure out how to change it. That's what she said. There we go. Oh.
Hi, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, Cindy Bastis.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. I just have a couple of questions about the need for new lockers and security updates, and then also the kitchen equipment. Are there any federal grants available to cover these costs?
Generally, it's citizens' comments, not question and answer.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. What I will do is I can tell you that based on our administration, that there are currently no grants that we've been able to obtain for lockers, any further security updates, or the kitchen equipment. Grants for those type of items are very few and far between. And I know that there had been some comments on the internet about why we need quote unquote restaurant equipment, which was improperly quoted by the first selectman. It is not restaurant equipment. It is essentially health and safety equipment in the cafeteria because that's what keeps the hot food hot and the cold food cold. But we can continue to attempt to look for grants, which is what we always do and will continue to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other citizens' comments? Going once, going twice. Moving on. Okay, Board of Education budget meeting number 4.
So my apologies for being a few minutes late. Bill Stedlitz and I went over the expenses that came in for FY27 after I presented the budget to you all. So I think Bill is going to start with going over what those numbers look like, and then you all can have a discussion about that. And then it's going to be up to the board whether or not we add that to my original budget or not.
Okay.
So just for illustration purposes, I did include those numbers in the package that's in front of you. In a nutshell, we added, and I'll go into a little more detail in a minute, $323,000 to pupil services and another $21,000 related to the pension contribution. I think I had mentioned that in the last meeting. We had finally heard back from the actuary, and 27's contribution is a little bit higher. So that brings the pupil services increase to $877,000, 17.2%. The pension contribution appears in the district-wide line, that's budget 9006. So the change there is $299,000, is $21,000 higher because of the contribution. Obviously, the bulk of those numbers are related to pupil services. I have to be careful about how much detail I can go into. However, I can say the vast majority of it is related to 2 outplaced students that whose situations developed after we drafted the first budget, as well as having a better idea of the number of students who are going to Killingly and Ellis who have IEPs, because there's additional related charges.
The BOAG.
Right, VOAG and I believe Ellis too. I think there was a couple at Ellis. Well, we have a little bit of money in there from Ellis.
Oh,
I think
we
it's
do?
20,000.
Okay.
That was from a conversation I had with Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, and I followed up with Chris after April today. And then there's an additional amount in there for at-home related tutoring for a student with some medical needs. That's a relatively small amount of that, just over $300,000. So all of that brings us to a revised budget of $23.9 million, which is a $2.2 million or 9.9% increase. To address a couple of the comments, I can speak generally towards a couple of the comments and questions that came out of our last meeting, specifically around, there were some questions around some of the salary line fluctuations. I think I had mentioned to the board that I would take a look at some of the larger ones. I had expressed that, in a nutshell, those were pretty much related to, the vast majority of them are related to step changes within the teacher lines. There are some instances where a former teacher had been replaced either with a higher paid teacher or, in other instances, a lower paid teacher. So in those instances, that drives some of the larger fluctuations too. I'm about half of the way through that analysis, and everything I've seen so far is sort of the lumpiness that is inherent in the step structure of teacher compensation. So you might have someone going from a step 3 to a step 4, and it's a very minor percentage increase, whereas someone who is going from a step 13 to 14, it's a much more significant increase. So that's why you see a lot of variation in the teacher raises. But like I said, I'm not completed with that. Forgive me there, but I wanted to get these numbers refreshed for you, and as Jess had mentioned earlier, this is a big week on the town side because we have the first town side budget meeting on Thursday, so there's a lot of prep work going on there. But the early results are in, and it's pretty much exactly what we expected. It's primarily related to step differences.
Any questions for Mr. Steglitz? Justin?
This does not include any of the capital, correct? Does not include any of the capital.
It does not.
No, those were the only changes that we made from the previous budget. And obviously, we're keeping an eye on if we find, I noticed some noise in some of the para salary calculation that ended up being relatively minor. But that's not different from any, this is never intended to be a final budget. And even what we were talking about with the town, for example, on Thursday, we still have numbers that are coming in on the town side for everything from what Connecticut Water is charging us for hydrants and the like, and that develops over the budget process, so.
And this still has the 10% insurance.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't changed. Unfortunately, it's still holding at 10%.
What is the mill going to be worth this year?
$1.148 million. Popular question tonight.
Are there any particular line items anybody wanted to look at?
Not a line item.
Justin?
Not a line item, but we usually do it a little later in the process. I'm wondering if we have any idea what that looks like now. Typically, when we start our presentation portion of the budget season, we have a slide put together for grants and where certain monies are coming from. I have 2 questions to that. One, could we get a draft of that sooner rather than later before we get the presentation.
So get that tomorrow night, because that's part of the budget basics, so that folks know where some of our revenue is coming from. So I'll have that for you tomorrow. It won't be in slide format, but the information will be there.
The information, right?
And then, of course, you know, we wanted to start working on the slide part of this, but we don't have a number yet, so it was difficult for us to create the pie charts and kind of update the presentation without that number. But we plan on working on that as soon as we have one, and I don't even know if you're even ready tonight to figure that out, but we'll do the best we can with the presentation and draft it together, and then get it ready, and we can pull it apart next meeting.
Yeah, at least get the bones of it, you know.
It's already put together
Yeah,
from
pretty much,
last year.
No, I was just looking for some of that data, sorry, Rick, if I can follow.
can wait.
Some of the data that I keep dragging from last year's slide deck.
Yep, exactly.
up.
Yep.
And I think that last year you had a sheet for us that had budget drivers.
Yep.
And we converted that sheet into a slide, which was really helpful come budget time. That's something that I'd like to make sure that we put together with the grant lines. You know, whether, I don't care if it's a $5,000 grant from Jewett City Bank for something, right? That's the type of stuff that I want to identify that we captured this year. We've got a lot of questions that keep coming in about, are we applying for grants? Are we going?
Right.
We around this table and those that regularly pay attention to our meetings understand that we're going for every grant humanly possible. We're scouring every corner of the federal and state to try to find them. But what we need to do, I think, is better show that we are going for any grant that we're eligible, and this is what we're getting from it.
Outside of the federal and state grants that we typically already get, there hasn't been a whole lot, like there's no security grant out there yet.
Yep.
There hasn't been very many grants. We get small ones, like the teachers get small ones, but there haven't been any. Like next year we'll have a matching HDT grant, which I'm assuming in the Alliance budget, but it's a matching grant, dollar for dollar. So we're hoping to pull in $100,000 for HDT, using $50,000 from Alliance, and then going after that other 50 from the state. So that's on the horizon, but I don't see any big dollar grants around.
Okay. My last
Yep.
I think it's important to note that as we watched last week during our meeting with the town struggling with the salt, this is on a much larger scale, but in a matter of 3 weeks, we went from 1.5 million on line 177 to 1.8 million. So we went $300,000 in a matter of a couple of weeks. That is how volatile that section, this overall section of our budget is, and we have no control over that. If I may take another second.
Sure.
Thank you. I had some recent interactions, relatively recently, with some teachers at the school who I feel are having to struggle with decisions that are being made because of budget items that are out of everybody's control. We have teachers that want to teach the students, that see students that have struggles in certain areas, and they can only serve so many at a time. Bodies in the classrooms, teacher bodies in the classrooms matter. For those that continue to say that Thompson is a struggling district, that Thompson has low scores, I would ask, how can you make it better if you don't have the teachers to support it? Our teachers, as Mr. Prentice, Mr. Mellon, and Ms. Granato said last week, are not just doing their union contracted time every day. They're coming in early, they're staying late, they're putting out their personal cell phone numbers so that parents can text message them and get information from them 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. I think if we look at the overall teacher salary in our district versus other districts, It has historically been lower, and it is lower than other districts. And if you take that on top of what our teachers and what our staff are doing with their time, they're not sitting around. They're trying to do the best they can for our population with the minimal resources that they have. If we're going to continue as a community, we need to step up and support our students and our teachers. And I think we've kicked this can down the road long enough.
Well said.
Oops, sorry, Rick.
That's fine. 2 lines, Bill, I'd like to just see if we can put some clarification in the explanations, and one is on line 149, and the other's the line 237. I was given some information about 237, but it was interesting, just looking at line 149, and it's under a ES teacher sub-salary. The thing that kind of catches me is that the proposed budget of 55K, the revised budget of 55, but the projected spend at 83,
Yep.
and it says I'm a zero change. So I'm just curious how on earth we deal with that 33K when it happens again.
Yeah, that's an instance where that budget probably could have been higher.
I gotcha. And that's a need, I'm assuming.
Sure.
To have that,
Staff
kind of
need.
the lack of,
Are we
and we're
anticipating it?
needing a sub-teacher there.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's like,
those-
well, that's an interest, because you kind of miss it when it says it's only a 0%, but it is almost a $34,000 impact with that one sub thing there.
Yep.
So
That's
should,
pretty huge. And then just the background information on the line 237. It's nearly a 30% increase.
I can
there,
answer.
so.
So I can answer that one.
Melinda can.
I can easily answer that one. Last year, we had to cut our HR director's position. It saved $85,000 on the board side. However, those duties ended up falling on my executive assistant. She received a new title. She is the executive assistant to the superintendent / HR coordinator, and she picked up those duties for the $20,000.
Gotcha. That's why she's always here.
She doesn't leave.
Yeah. All right,
She
thank
actually has
you.
a copy.
I wrote it in this time.
Matt?
going back to that elementary school substitute, should we, not that we want to be adding more, but should we increase that? Is it going to be needed next year?
So the subline always runs over, and so we use other lines, obviously, to cover that overage. We have, and I put it on my sheet a couple of weeks ago, we have 2 permanent subs at the middle school. We have a permanent sub at the high school and a permanent sub at Mary R. Fisher. So there's 4 permanent subs here. Years ago, we found that we were having difficulty getting substitutes. We decided that we would put those permanent subs in so that they know the children, the coverage is there. But we go beyond just those 4 substitutes in the district, right?
Sure.
And this has been an unusually hard-hit year for illness, and we have had a lot of people out long-term this year for COVID, pneumonia, you name it. So people are sick this year, and so we're starting to see that flush out in the subline. We don't have a really good pool of subs either, so the ones that we do have come in, they're pretty dedicated to us. I know on my list of reductions, I even put those 4 permanent subs down. I don't think that's a wise decision, but those are positions that will probably escalate that line if we don't have them here every day, and then the inconsistency of not having the same people in the building. But anyway, yeah.
So I do know that the students appreciate having, not necessarily the same sub every time that they have a sub, but having a familiar face. It gives them a known quantity to deal with,
Right.
so.
Sub that just left, was he a permanent sub?
The one,
Friday.
yes. No, he wasn't a permanent
Oh.
sub. No, but he was here for, during his school break.
Okay. Danielle?
follow-up question on the subs. Are these just if somebody is out, like what if somebody is out maternity leave, something? Is this the same line that you would find that? Because I know there was a teacher out on maternity leave, so is there like potentially an increase because of that? Or is
No,
that in a different
this-
line?
This isn't that, it's a different line.
Okay,
You know, the permanent subs get coded sometimes to the role that they're taking.
okay.
But sometimes we hire beyond just those 4 permanent subs to fill in, like for a long-term, full-year maternity leave or a half a year. We post for those positions, so then you are paying, if they have enough bank time, you're paying for the teacher who's out,
Yep.
and then you're also paying for the substitute. And depending on the number of days, they might exceed the substitute. I mean, if it's beyond 45 days, they end up on staff.
Kathleen?
Okay, going back to the increase in the special education of 323,000. Adding that to the budget or not adding that to the budget, because there's the possibility that we don't spend it, or there's the distinct probability that we do spend it. Because basically what we're doing is, we ended up this year almost more than that amount over in special education. So we're starting out this fiscal 27 in the hole by over that amount. If we don't add it to the budget, we're at risk of going over fiscal 27 by that amount. Adding it to the budget, we're adding 2 mills, basically 2 mills to the tax rate, if this were to be accepted.
The total increase, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which would apply. In my opinion.
Yep.
Plus whatever's on the town side.
Right, which is significant because,
Yeah.
well, we don't need to get into that, but there's
What,
a
if
lot
we
of things
don't
that we're
present
cutting.
it as is, the 21,000 is peanuts, but we have to fund that. That has to be
Yeah.
funded.
Yep.
But we are in such a predicament. And the town too, because they have kicked the can down the road last year and the year before. They've gone without, as they have demonstrated with the salt budget and the paving and everything else. And they went into the general fund to lower the mill rate last year. Well, last year, I think somebody said it was the perfect storm. I don't know who said it here, but it was a really apt phrase, between the revaluation and everybody's needs. It's not wants. We gotta remember that these budgets that we present are not wants, they're needs. Absolute needs, bare bones needs. This year, we don't have the reval issue, but we have set the mindset of this town that we're only gonna go up half a mil, a mil at the most. And you can't
not realistic.
continue to operate this town, or any town, at that rate of increase. So, we need to add that to this budget. I say we need to present the budget that is the true spending needs of this school.
I second that, because if we don't, then if we're over in a certain area, there's nowhere that we could compensate in other. I mean, we need to staff the building. First and foremost, we need to make sure that staffing is in proper ratios, that we're supporting the students, that, that's a need. That is not a want, that is not a reach, that is a basic need, a fundamental need of the school system.
We cut staff last year. And we can't continue to do that and support our students.
But if we don't have someone to come in and fill, if someone's out sick, or if someone is taking a leave of absence, then, you know, it's a double-edged sword. You have to, you know, apples for apples, and this is something that I feel like we need to add to the budget.
Matt?
This is, I'm going to say 15 years, but I know it's more. 15 years of my experience of coming to meetings, and I know it's more of kicking the can down the road. And we say the same thing every year, but it's 15 years of negligent budgets and 15 years of people only, it's got to be flat, it's got to be half, it's got to be 1 mil or less. And yeah, I don't want my taxes going up. I feel it, and I you know, if you're on a fixed income, I understand that too. We have to keep the town open. You have to keep the school open, but these larger increases are because we kept shifting and moving and cutting and shifting and cutting and moving, and there's nothing left to shift and move. And you cut and it bleeds. And I understand there's people in town that don't care if it bleeds, but it's the community, and we need to get it out there that this is it. This is, you know, we have a functioning town, and by law we need to keep it functioning. and you know, I'm speaking for this budget and for the municipal budget as well. And you know, people will complain if there's potholes in the roads, and people will complain if they have to spend money to pave the roads. People will complain if the transfer station's open. People complain if transfer station's closed. People complain if transfer station rates go up. They'll complain if the transfer station closes. It costs money to do things. It costs money to have a society, and I really understand the need to want to not pay more, but everything else goes up, and the town has the same bills that the people have. The town has the same bills people have. The town has oil. The town has electricity. The town has, you know, debt burdens. The town has roofs to keep over our heads. The town it's all the same stuff we have at home. It is. The town has food to buy. It's I really wish we didn't. I really wish it didn't have to go up. So I you know, if there was something in here that we cut legally and without harming the students or having the building fall down around us, yeah.
Kristen had her hand up.
I was just gonna speak in response to what Kathleen had said about should we put it in or not, but if that is what Bill's telling us, that there's a known student, we are responsible for that, and if we know that that's our budget, it needs to be put into the budget, whether it's $8 billion or $5.
Each of these additions go back to specific students. There's no, let's put 300 in
Right.
because it'd be nice to have.
Right.
These are consistent with how we have determined as a board to budget special ed. These relate to specific students.
Right, so therefore it needs to be in the budget.
Right. Kathleen?
Yeah, I just want to again say this is rightfully to put this in, but I also want to echo what Justin said. There is no capital in this budget either. There's no fixing the cafeteria. That isn't addressed in this budget.
Correct.
My concern, and I don't disagree, is that we always hear people scream about minimum budget requirement. And if we put that in, then that amount of money has to always stay in.
Right. So I'm not suggesting we
Right.
put it in. We could address it by giving it to the town, because, and
I
it's
know.
gonna
Yep,
get,
yep.
it's gonna get cut.
Well, there's that, and then there's the fact that in previous years, we have asked for money for lockers. We were told it was put in a municipal repair fund, and then we were just recently told that that fund could now be used for whatever, not that that money is specifically allocated, even though that was in their budget presentation. And to me, that's not transparent. But that's my personal opinion on that.
Yep.
Hold on, I'm gonna go to Daniela because she was before you, Matt.
Yep.
Yes.
Did we hear anything regarding the fact that we are the safety, what are we calling this?
We're the town emergency shelter?
Yes, so I know it was
No.
brought up, but the fact that if there's an emergency and we need to seek shelter here, that cafeteria is open to the town. So were selectmen looking into helping some or anything? Was that, I
There
wasn't
has
quite
been
sure
nothing
about
officially
what,
stated
if
in
that
writing.
has gone back anywhere.
So when I met with the emergency team a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
the conversation was that they were, John and Steve were looking to see if they could find any relief to help us with the generator. They haven't come back with anything, but they were going to research that because the generator is going to be a
Mhm.
cost.
I mean, in this, if we become the shelter, we need the cafeteria. So we're gonna need some of that equipment. So just one of those things, like,
Yep.
are they thinking about that at all? Are they willing to support in any way and help? I feel like it's Groundhog Day, guys. Does today feel like Groundhog Day or what?
Very appropriate.
It's a very
day,
appropriate to
going
have this
around
meeting
and
today.
around in circles.
Matt?
Two things about the cafeteria issue and the emergency issue. If the town had the extra money in an account, which they're supposed to, but if the town had it as a surplus or something, we would be happy to, our administration would work with us, I'm sure. I'm confident of that. They don't have it any more than we have it.
Right.
But what I was going to say before that is, I forgot. Everything's a blur time-wise. But it was a couple years ago when we did have the surplus that we said, oh well, we have I'm just making a number up. We have 1.8 million in special ed. Do we really need it? Do we really need it? Well, we might be over. And then it came back to bite us when we did cut it because something else happened. It was that next year. And so, but that's not to say that's what we're doing, because it's not what we're doing. It's somebody's come in, we have a need, we can't avoid it. It's not like we're hiding $300,000 behind shadow children, which we don't have. They're there. They have that need. If we don't put them in the budget, it's going to come back on the back end like it is this year.
Plus
And-
this.
Plus
Right?
this.
Plus this.
Plus
Yeah,
this.
We're already 5.
Right.
Added this.
So that's what it is. And it does come back to the state needs to do their job. And they're not, and they're just as ineffective as the federal Congress.
Rick?
So are we able to do something to move ahead some of the capital items under the non-lapsing accounts prior to throwing it into next year's budget?
Finance meeting.
Extra, we've talked about it several meetings back. It's like 118,000.
There's a finance
This-
meeting tomorrow
tomorrow.
evening.
Yeah.
That's when we'll have our discussion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
Justin?
All right, I'm gonna get controversial here.
Okay.
So everybody can get over it. So we added 344,000 to the budget tonight. What are we gonna get rid of? That's high school and middle school athletics at 344,800. Or are we gonna do culinary, welding, CNA, and fire safety? Or are we gonna do security and construction electricity? Which one do we wanna do?
That's
Want
just
to
to bring
do
it down
what?
to last week's numbers.
You talking about it?
Yeah, which one do we want to do? Because, I mean, here's the thing. There are people in this town who think that we can go to a sheet and start cutting items without affecting children. Everybody around this table knows we can't do any of this, but I just did some really funny, quick math. The athletic programs that are on Melinda's sheet come out to $344,800. We just added $344,000 to our budget tonight. Proposed 300. This is what we're talking about where we're just stuck. And I think if everybody around the table is not willing to touch any of these programs, and we have to add what was coming in, and we have capital needs that are literally, I mean, either we put a steamer somewhere on some budget somehow,
Right.
or we're not serving lunch.
Right.
Right? We can decide we don't want to fix the generator, but that means when the power goes out, It means we're calling the bus company and the kids are going home, and parents are going to have to figure out how they're going to pick up the kids. Newton's laws say with every action there's an equal an opposite reaction.
Yep.
And here we are. We are finally at that point where something's going to happen. And just as the Board of Finance does, I know the Board of Finance fought last year over an owl camera, I think was one of their items last year that they were debating over. And last week they debated, or didn't debate, they talked about assault overage of $39,000. I facetiously said, I wish we were worried about $39,000 because every single time we blink, it's 100, it's 165, it's 200, it's 300. Not this same time, but a month from now last year, we were looking at 277, give or take. And that 277 hadn't gone away.
And that could happen again. I hate to say it, but keep in mind that happened in May.
Yeah.
It's February.
Yeah, and these are things that are out of our condition, out of our control. I want to put the question around the table, and I want to put it out to the public that's on Zoom tonight, and anybody who listens to this going forward.
Yep.
Where in this, and this is up on the district website, this has been published to the town. It's public. No, it's in our meeting.
That was for your eyes only,
It was in the last meeting minutes.
was it?
Yeah. It was in the last packet.
No,
Which one?
the cuts were not in the back.
Regardless, the numbers are there because they're in here.
Correct.
Where does anybody want us to get this money from? And I don't want taxes to go up in town. I don't want to burden the fixed income. But I've been on the board for just over 2 years now, and I'm trying to be fiscally responsible. And fiscally responsible doesn't mean cut this down to 21 million and call it a day. Fiscally responsible means I got to make sure that the dollars that we're putting into the system are being used somewhere useful. And we're actually making progress in this district. So any dollar that gets pulled out is going to be detrimental to the progress that we've made. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I mean, last year we got rid of the HR director. That function needed to go somewhere. And there's a science teacher that's currently that's an open position in the high school, and we've got staff members that are picking up that piece.
But we need to replace that next year.
I get that, but what I'm saying is we didn't hire a permanent sub in
Correct.
to fill that spot. We had other staff members that filled in that gap.
And Justin, what you said earlier, right? I don't think our staff, as willing and as helpful and dedicated as they are, they're taking on a lot, and I don't think we can ask them to take on any more.
No,
We're not here to do that.
When-
Sorry.
No, you're fine. When you're having conversations with staff members and they're coming to tears because they know what they need to do, what they want to try to do, but they can't do it because there's just, the cup is empty. The stone has been bled dry. And when we go through this fight every year, the morale drops more and more and more. There are people who don't even go anywhere near social media for town sites this time of year because it's so demoralizing. And this is what we're doing to our children. So let's be realistic. If anybody, my email's up on the district's website, my phone number's up on the district's website. Anybody has anywhere in these pages that they can see being cut, send it my way, and I will make sure it gets brought up at our next budget meeting.
Amanda?
So I feel like, yes, we have our budget, and the Board of Finance asked us to look at it again and look at it again. Is our budget that we have, is that, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't show all of our needs because we've had to really pare down what our needs are. So should we look at it again and put in what we really need? Because let's face it, you can cut, but we can't cut from this. There's nothing that you can take from this without impacting the education of our children. Yes, we want to be fiscally responsible, and I get that. I get that as a mom. I get that as a taxpayer. But we have to stop thinking you can cut and you can cut and you can cut. And you can Band-Aid and Band-Aid and Band-Aid till, like Matt said, 15 years of underfunding and cutting till there's nothing left to cut.
That's where we are.
And that's where we are. Matt?
I think Daniela was first.
Oh,
Amanda, I love the thought process, but realistically, to put in what we need to add more, we're gonna be sitting here fighting the same fight. It's gonna continue to be Groundhog Day. We're putting, if we said to Melinda, tell us everything you need and put it in here.
But it's not a need.
So-
It's a
Right, I mean, it is a need, it is a need.
it's not a want. That's what I was looking
Right,
for.
it is a need, they're all needs, right? We need to bring back every teacher we cut last year, and then some. And we need to bring back,
Field trips.
I mean, everything, more school supplies, all of it, we do. But realistically, we're never getting a budget passed. We will have, I don't know how many referendums, and then the state's gonna have to step in because nobody in this town is going to accept that. If you look and see who's joining on Zoom right now, majority of the people are our teachers because they're worried about, do I have a job? What is gonna happen to me? It's not our community. It's not, I mean, there are teachers that are part of our town. The people on there are the teachers. It's not anybody here. I posted today. I don't see any of those names on here. People want, and where's the Zoom link? I gave it to you. You still couldn't be on the meeting, right?
There's lots of iPhones without people saying who they are.
Right.
As noble as Amanda's sentiment is, if we were to add $3 million more of the things that we need, the Board of Finance, they could see right through that. But however, if we did draw up a parallel budget of the things that have been cut, I'm not saying we should do that. You don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. But hypothetically speaking, if we were to draw up a parallel budget of the realistic budget that we should have,
I
right,
think- right.
it would be $3 more million or $4 more million or $5 more million of the things that haven't been paid for the last 15 to 20 to 25 years. Just everything's just gradually been whittled away. So if we brought ourselves back up to the, and I'm not saying we should, if we brought ourselves back up to the services and the programs and field trips and the little things like that that keep getting whittled away, enrichment over the last, let's say 20 years is a round number, it would be a lot more than this. And that's to make our students
Well-rounded.
And the things that I had when I went to a very middle class, elementary and high school in New Jersey back 40 years ago, whatever that was. I went, but I had things that I wish these kids had. Granted, we have the high school programs that we've implemented are phenomenal and great, but just general ed things that should be offered to kids to make them well-rounded, and the things that we just keep cutting, and it breaks my heart, and I understand that we can't afford everything, and there's, but we're also not cutting, we're not cutting golden staplers out of our budget. We're cutting the essentials.
And I don't.
Justin?
Question for Melinda. This is a hypothetical, if this $323,000 that just came into our budget was in the high school, and the high school was outsourced, we would still be on the hook for that $323,000, probably plus more for administration fees. Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement.
Okay. My second question is, what could the district do with $323,000 if it were to be pushed into the general education budget?
Oh, well, we would certainly start to restore some of the programs that we put. We need interventionists, and we need a reading teacher at the high school, gen ed reading teacher at the high school. So I always have a wish list in my head, but along the way, we have been I love this term, shuffling chairs on the Titanic. That's what we've been doing. And so if I needed to get a culinary teacher, I had to get rid of the family consumer science teacher. And it was always a give and take. Over the 9 years, the 9 budgets I've prepared, I can tell you that I don't think there is a year that we went by that we didn't cut staff somewhere, and reduce something somewhere, whether or not it was because of enrollment or the fact that we just couldn't afford it anymore. We used to have a reading class at the middle school. It was, there was ELA, but then students went to reading. We got rid of that my second year here, I think, Danielle. We got rid of all of them, one at every grade level. So that was my first, budget, and I had started to take out essential reading program because, well, you look at the test scores, ELA and reading, I didn't see anything inching up. So we pulled that out. Probably wasn't a wise decision at the middle level. You didn't even have, when I came, you didn't even have reading teachers at the middle school, and you only had 2.5 at the elementary, and you had students that weren't being serviced. So we had to give something else up to put those folks in. And that's what it's been. It's been 9 years of shuffling those chairs, and to the point where there's no more chairs to shuffle, because what we have is a practical budget that meets the needs of the students that are currently in the district. And you heard the 3 principals, they all said the same thing. We're trying to maintain what we have. We're not asking for anything else. If we need something else, they're gonna be creative with their teachers, and they're gonna figure it out on the backside if it's not staffing. Or they'll roll up their sleeves and volunteer more of their time. But at the end of the day, if we had to cover that 323, we're gonna lose kid programs.
So I will follow that up with, if the state were to magically come in tomorrow and write the district, say, we're gonna cover all pupil services, the state's gonna cover all pupil services moving forward, that would be roughly about 5 mil. That would come out of the 19 mil rate that we have right now. Even if we were to drop 1 mil back in there to, let's say, bring back enrichment programs and some of the other programs, I can't imagine what $1.148 million would do in terms of bringing back math labs and reading labs, and what that would do to our district's test scores from a general education perspective.
Correct.
This is the type of stuff that I think we as a board should be able to talk about. Not where do we want to take $323,000 from, but what enrichment program do we want to put $323,000 into? Where is the need for the district? Well, we're having we're struggling in math in 3rd and 4th grade from test scores. Okay, let's do a math lab there. We're struggling in reading in the middle school. Let's do it there. We don't even get, and I won't even call it a luxury, we don't even get the opportunity
That's right.
to debate those kinds of things at this board level. We get bills that come in for $323,000. We have to figure out where that is going to take from at this point. So I think we're kind of there.
Amanda?
And I think that's where my point was to show, like, okay, this is where we should be at, and this is where we're at. Not that I'm advocating to, let's raise the roof. But, we have to be practical, and we have to show apples to apples and say, this is what it is. We want our children to succeed. We want to be able to do, make mountains into, glorious everything. But we have to show it. And we have to show the people that Thompson's worth it and our children are worth it.
Do we have? Is there any further discussion on the budget at this point?
Motion to table the budget.
Motion to table the budget.
Pending our finance committee subcommittee meeting tomorrow night.
Second that.
Okay, so Justin has that, Matt has a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All the passed unanimously. All right.
That is not here.
Citizens' comments. We're gonna start back on Zoom. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. No takers. Any citizens' comments in the room?
I would suggest that you don't have these extra needed but not currently used requirements from a camera system, security system that need to be upgraded, I heard last time. Additional support in reading. If you don't put it in the budget, at least make a list of things that you need but aren't in the budget.
Good idea.
Maybe that would help explain to the Board of Finance and citizens, our budget is X. We really should have been asking for this, and this, and this, and this, and when the town needs, emergency needs to put citizens in the school, there's gonna be no generator. You know, let's try to make a pitch here that makes sense. I haven't looked at every line in the budget, but it looks like it's a pretty thin budget. I think you guys are in trouble next year. So again, I'm a little concerned. Board of Finance is not gonna add to your budget.
No.
Right.
So if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it.
Interesting, thank you.
Just a thought you might wanna think about, including something, even if it's gonna be shot down. It's certainly not gonna get approved if you don't ask. That would be a suggestion you might think about adding some. Is there any contingency in here?
No.
No. There's gonna be something next year. We don't know what it is, but there's gonna be something. You need to have some contingency.
If I
Very
might.
reasonable. And I know.
Go ahead, Mr. Steglitz.
It'll probably be the first thing that gets slashed, but it is appropriate. You guys have a job to prepare an appropriate budget. It's appropriate to have contingency funds for this kind of, for $20 million operation.
Steve, the closest we have to contingency in here, there's I think a couple of TBD positions in there that are replacement positions to be filled. But that's really not even contingency, but that's the closest thing that even whiffs at that.
Yeah.
It's not like the
Something you could-
town,
yeah,
that we
something.
have a contingency line.
So again, I would suggest it, and I'm on the Board of Finance, but I would suggest having a budget that's what you need for the school. Not what you think you can get away with. What you need. And again, and if you can't put it in the budget itself, at least tell the Board of Finance and the citizens, we need X, Y, and Z, we're not putting it in the budget, but it really is a need, and next year, if this breaks, we're gonna be in trouble.
Okay. All right.
Oh, if I might make one
Yep.
final comment. I was looking at the salaries, teacher salaries of 7.7%. And that seemed like an awful lot to me, even though I understand steps and everybody gets a pay raise and so on. But if that's comparing the budget to the budget for the current year, it's not comparing to what we're spending in the current year.
Mm-hmm.
If you compare it to what we're actually spending, it's a 3.3% increase. Not, still an increase, as you would expect, but it's not like the 7.7% that this shows. So, when I look at budgets, I like to look at sort of the current year actual or running rate or expected number this year, not what we budgeted last year, which probably was based on what they budgeted the year before, which was based on what we budgeted the year before that. I like to look at what we're expecting to do in the current year. And that teacher salary is a great example. Looks like 7.7%, not even half that. So, compared to the actual spending this year. Just a thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bill wanted to say something.
Did I need to say as a citizen comment?
Yes, in this one it'll be.
Rick Madero's 42 Logie Road, new on the Board of Ed, but I remember Melinda saying she'd already cut $400,000 off of the budget before it came to us. And that may be along the lines of what Steve is saying. Those were presented to Melinda as needs from the principals in the school.
Mhm.
And that may be one of those things, kind of where Justin was heading is, here's this list we've already cut. And I took her for her word. This was stuff we're just not gonna be able to pass, so I've
Right.
already taken this off. It needs to probably not put back, but somehow stated, as you've said, from last year, you had a whole document of what already got cut.
Right.
That list probably should be presentable. That's $500,000 to someone.
Right.
That's a lot. And then another 300,000 got added today. That's pretty tough. And may I take it to that thing I said a few weeks ago? It's almost like pupil services or special ed needs to be one block of money. And then what it takes to run the school, gen ed and the rest is here. So when this 5 million switches every other week, that shouldn't impact. I don't understand why we're not separating it. People don't want it, it's all one bucket of money. But the reality is it takes this much to run the school. And this student need changes. So I just feel it's terrible to consider if this part of the bucket changes, I gotta steal it from here.
It is terrible.
I do not like that approach at all. It seems like that's the way the town wants to run, but you just can't. There's 777 students in these buildings. We need this much money to keep those kids going with teaching the ABCs, as well as some food, unless you're gonna provide peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and milk every day. We're beyond that. That was 50 years ago when I was in school. So but thank you for the couple of parts there.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Take care.
Done.
Now,
Bill.
There's nothing else to talk about. We're just gonna-
no, I know, it's going circles.
Some of the lines I had.
And we've all had some good points, and we all spoke tonight.
So I don't know that I'll